Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today we're going to tackle media manipulation and truth, and we've got a really fascinating source for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a conversation with Wyoming.
Oh, wow.
That outspoken Spanish media personality,
Yeah, I know Wyoming.
never shies away from controversy.
Definitely not.
He really gets into it in this conversation.
Oh, I bet.
It gets pretty intense as he dives into his experiences with media manipulation and how it seems to be aimed at certain political ideologies.
Yeah, that's a hot topic for sure. His perspective is going to be really interesting to unpack, I think, because, well, he's been in the industry a long time.
Yeah.
He's not just talking theory here. He's talking about things he's seen and experienced, right?
Oh.
So it's like a window into how things actually work.
Behind the scenes. Okay, so let's get into it.
Yeah, let's unpack this.
Right away, Wyoming comes out swinging, right?
Yeah.
Says journalists often face a lot of pushback when they try to report freely. He feels it's especially difficult when you're trying to expose corruption within the media itself.
Oh, so like who watches the Watchmen?
Exactly.
Yeah, and he even mentions this leaked audio recording.
Oh, right.
Supposedly suggests a news story was completely fabricated, targeted a former Spanish vice president.
Wow.
If that's true, that's pretty worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredibly worrying. Is he suggesting, that there are powerful figures within the media that are trying to silence dissenting voices?
I think that's what he's getting at. Yeah, it's like he even says that just bringing these kinds of issues up can be risky for your career.
Right.
He mentions having some, contractual limitations himself.
Ah, so he can't even speak freely about some things.
Right. Makes you wonder how widespread this culture of silence might be.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just about journalists being cautious, is it?
No.
It almost sounds like self-censorship.
Yeah. But he doesn't just stop at limitations journalists face. He goes on to talk about, media bias.
Media manipulation.
Okay.
And he doesn't think it's a level playing field.
What do you mean?
He claims that, the spread of misinformation.
Oh, right.
What they call bulos in Spanish.
Right.
He says it's not evenly distributed, across the political spectrum. In his experience, he says most of the manipulation and the lies, they originate from specific sources.
Interesting.
And consistently target the same groups.
So he's suggesting there's like a deliberate effort to discredit certain ideologies.
Sounds like it.
That's a big accusation.
It is. And he contrasts this with his own experiences. He says, he's never personally come across fabricated stories targeting, let's say, certain left-leaning political figures.
Right.
But he himself, he's been the target of accusations and attacks.
Right.
Which he believes are baseless.
So he's saying there's a pattern here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's a bias in how certain narratives are pushed and who ends up being targeted.
Okay. Now, to kind of drive this point home, Wyoming gets pretty personal. He shares some pretty intense stories.
Okay.
He talks about being publicly accused of being a drug dealer.
Whoa.
By two people who were associated with a right-wing political party.
That's a shocking accusation.
It is.
What kind of impact did that have on his life?
Well, he explains it caused him a lot of distress, personal distress, and had the potential to really damage his reputation, even his relationships with his family.
Oh, wow.
It's chilling. It's a reminder of how damaging false accusations can be.
Especially when they're amplified by the media.
Exactly.
You mentioned, before we started recording, something called the Esperanza Aguirre incident.
Oh, yeah.
What was that all about?
That's another one of his stories, and it really shows how easily misinformation can spread and how even prominent figures can contribute to it.
Okay.
So Esperanza Aguirre, she's a well-known, conservative politician.
Yeah.
She publicly accused the then Prime Minister, Zapatero, of hiring people to attack a journalist.
Whoa, that's a pretty serious accusation. Was there any truth to it?
Well, here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Turns out the journalist in question was actually just involved in, like a drunken brawl, like a bar fight.
Oh, wow.
And Wyoming says the police officer who handled the case confirmed this to him personally.
So the whole accusation was completely fabricated.
Seems that way. But unfortunately, the story doesn't end there. Wyoming himself was mistakenly identified as the aggressor.
Oh, no.
Because of a misleading photo that Aguirre had circulated.
Oh, jeez.
So this led to, even more harassment, more false accusations directed at Wyoming.
So not only was the initial accusation false, it spiraled into a whole other mess.
Yeah.
Because of a photo.
Just shows how quickly things can get twisted and manipulated, right?
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of the
To
fact.
fit a certain narrative.
Exactly. And this brings us to a rather provocative thought experiment that Wyoming proposed. He suggested applying the same false accusations, right, that have been made against certain individuals to people on the other side, the opposite end of the political spectrum.
Oh, interesting. So he's saying, like, let's see if these accusations stick with the same intensity if we apply them to a different group?
Yeah, like he's trying to expose a double standard.
Wow, that's a bold idea.
It is.
Did he actually go through with it?
He didn't.
Oh.
He decided not to pursue it because of the potential backlash.
Oh, I see.
Which speaks volumes, don't you think?
It does. It suggests that there's a fear that certain accusations are more readily accepted or believed depending on who they're targeting.
Yeah, exactly.
This whole conversation is making me think about, like, the very definition of truth in journalism. Does Wyoming offer any insights into that?
He does.
Oh, good.
He tells a story about attending a gathering with a group of, prominent journalists.
Oh.
They're all debating this concept of truth in media. And amidst all the back and forth, Wyoming, he just drops this simple but powerful statement.
Okay.
Basta con mentir.
Which means?
It's enough to not lie. He's basically saying, while journalists might make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Or have different interpretations of things.
Sure.
Deliberately spreading falsehoods, that's a whole other issue.
Right.
It's a line you just don't cross.
It seems like a pretty basic principle for journalism.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But maybe it's easier said than done in practice.
Maybe so. And that's where his next point comes in.
Okay.
Wyoming talks about the importance of factual accuracy.
Right.
And he prides himself on the fact that his own show's been running for 18 years.
Wow.
Without any major legal issues.
That's impressive.
He attributes that to his commitment to being truthful.
Yeah.
Even when dealing with, sensitive or controversial topics.
It sounds like he's putting his money where his mouth is.
He is.
Does he give any other examples to kind of illustrate this principle in action?
He doesn't really go into specific cases on that point.
Okay.
But he does touch upon the idea of, like journalistic integrity.
Yeah.
As a kind of shield against accusations, right?
Right.
So if your work consistently reflects a commitment to truth, it becomes harder for those attacks to stick.
So it builds a sort of credibility, like, over time.
Exactly. It's like a preemptive defense against, those who might try to discredit you. Wyoming's story, I think, really underscores the need for all of us to become more, what do they call it, media literate.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, we can't just passively absorb information anymore.
Yeah.
We have to be active participants, questioning what we see, what we hear,
right,
considering different perspectives.
So how do we do that, right?
Yeah, exactly. How do we do that?
In a world that's just flooded with information.
Yeah, we're bombarded with news from all sides.
All the time.
It's not always easy to separate fact from fiction.
That's why I think Wyoming's message is so important.
Okay.
We need to be, vigilant, hone our critical thinking skills, learn how to evaluate sources,
Yeah.
spot potential biases.
We need a whole new set of tools to navigate this modern media landscape.
Yeah, something to help us become more, informed and empowered.
Totally.
And these tools, they don't have to be complicated.
Okay.
I think it starts with being aware of our own biases,
Right.
understanding how those might influence the way we perceive information. We also need to make a conscious effort to seek out diverse perspectives.
Okay.
Not just echo chambers.
Yeah.
That confirm what we already believe.
Right, because it's so easy to get caught in those echo chambers where we're only exposed to information that reinforces our worldview.
Exactly, and breaking out of those echo chambers, that's crucial for developing a more nuanced understanding of complex issues. Right. It's vital for having, productive conversations. Yeah. Bridging those divides.
Right, the divides that separate us.
Yeah.
All this talk about manipulation and misinformation, it makes me think about, like, social media's role in all this.
Social media?
Yeah. I mean, it feels like it's become such a breeding ground for misinformation and manipulation.
Oh, absolutely. Social media has definitely amplified these challenges.
Yeah.
It's made it easier than ever for false narratives to spread.
Right.
Like wildfire.
And for individuals to be targeted with harmful content.
Wyoming's story about that drug dealing accusation.
Yeah.
Perfect example, right?
Yeah. And he talked about how quickly it spread online.
Right.
And how long the damage to his reputation lingered.
Yeah, it's a sobering reminder
Hmm.
that the harm caused by, online attacks
Yeah.
can be very real
Yeah.
and very difficult to repair.
It also, I think, underscores the importance of being mindful of what we share and promote on social media.
Absolutely. We all have responsibility to prevent the spread of harmful content.
So where do we go from here? What can we do as individuals to encourage, like, responsible journalism and critical media consumption?
Well, there's a few things. First, I think we need to actively support quality journalism.
Yeah.
Seek out news organizations that are committed to factual accuracy,
Right.
ethical reporting, subscribe to, reputable newspapers, magazines.
Yeah.
Even consider donating to independent media outlets.
Okay, so by doing that, we're investing in a more informed public.
Exactly.
Okay.
We also need to be really discerning about the sources we rely on for information.
Okay.
Be wary of websites or social media accounts that are constantly pushing sensationalized content,
Right.
emotionally charged content. Instead, look for evidence-based reporting,
Okay.
citing credible sources.
It's almost like we have to become, like, media detectives.
Yeah, kind of right.
Constantly analyzing and evaluating the information that comes our way.
In a way, yes, we need to be critical thinkers.
Yeah.
Always questioning assumptions.
Yeah.
Looking for solid evidence.
Yeah.
Considering different viewpoints.
But what about those who intentionally spread misinformation? How do we hold them accountable?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's complex.
Yeah.
There's a lot of debate about how to handle, deliberate falsehoods,
Right.
especially in the online world. Some people argue for more regulation of social media platforms.
Okay.
Others are concerned about censorship.
Right. So it's a tough balance.
It is.
Because, on the one hand, we want to protect free speech, but on the other, we need to prevent the spread of harmful lies.
Exactly. It's an ongoing conversation, and there aren't any easy answers. But one thing's clear. We all have a part to play.
Okay.
In pushing back against misinformation.
So.
We can report suspicious content.
Okay.
Challenge false narratives.
Right.
Actively promote accurate information whenever we can.
So it's about taking back some control, becoming more informed consumers of information.
Exactly. We don't have to just sit back and accept whatever is thrown at us.
Right.
We can develop those, media literacy skills,
Right.
critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
And make ourselves less susceptible to manipulation.
Okay.
And contribute to, a more informed public discourse.
Wyoming's story is a powerful reminder of what's at stake here.
It is.
The consequences of unchecked misinformation can be devastating, not just for individuals, but for society as a whole.
His experiences really underscore the urgency of this issue. We can't afford to be complacent.
Yeah.
We need to be actively involved in promoting, truth and accountability in the media.
It's a call to action for all of us to become more informed, more critical, and more engaged citizens.
Absolutely. And to remember that truth matters.
Truth matters.
It matters for our democracy, for our communities, for our individual well-being.
So, give me an example of one of these logical fallacies.
Okay, so one that's really common is the ad hominem attack. You've probably seen this one.
I think so.
It's when, instead of addressing their argument, they attack the person making it.
Oh, right. So they're just trying to, smear the person instead of engaging with the ideas.
Exactly. Another common one is the false dilemma fallacy.
Okay.
That's where they present a situation as if there are only two options, when in reality there might be many other possibilities.
So they're trying to, box you in, make you think you have to choose between two extremes.
Exactly. There's no middle ground.
Right.
But often there is.
Okay, so those are just a couple of examples.
Right, but there are tons more.
And learning to identify those can be a powerful tool then to help sort of discern truth from falsehood.
It really can. It's like having a mental filter to help you screen out the noise.
Right.
And focus on the substance.
Okay, so that's logical fallacies. What else should we be watching out for?
Well, another big one is confirmation bias.
What's that?
That's our tendency to seek out information that confirms what we already believe.
Oh, yeah.
And to dismiss information that challenges our views.
I think we're all guilty of that to some extent.
Well, absolutely. It's human nature, right? It's way easier to accept information that aligns with our existing worldview.
Right, it's comforting.
It is. But if we really want to get to the truth of something,
yeah,
we need to be willing to consider all sides.
Even if it makes us uncomfortable.
Even then, yeah.
I mean, that's a tough one. But I see your point. It's about being, like, open-minded and willing to challenge our own assumptions.
Exactly. And it's not about being right all the time either.
No.
It's about being willing to change your mind when presented with new evidence.
Right, new perspectives.
Exactly.
This all kind of ties back to Wyoming's experiences, doesn't it?
Mm.
I mean, he's been accused of things that weren't true.
Yeah.
He's seen firsthand how misinformation can be used to really manipulate public opinion.
He has, and his story, I think, is a good reminder to all of us.
Yeah.
That we need to be careful about the information we consume and the conclusions we draw.
Yeah.
We can't just take things at face value. We need to, be critical thinkers.
Be media detective.
Exactly. Do our own research.
Stuff like we need to become more discerning consumers of information.
Right.
Right? Like we wouldn't buy a product without checking reviews or comparing prices.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
We need to be as careful about the information we feed our minds
Right.
as we are about the food we feed our bodies.
This whole conversation has been really eye-opening, I gotta say.
Yeah, me too.
It's made me realize how vulnerable we all are to manipulation, especially, in this age of information overload.
Right.
But I also feel kind of empowered knowing that there are steps we can take to protect ourselves.
I agree. I think it's not about becoming cynical or distrusting of everything you see and hear.
Right.
It's about developing those skills and that awareness.
Yeah.
To navigate this complex information landscape and make, informed decisions.
Wyoming's experiences have given us a lot to think about. I'm sure you, our listeners, have your own thoughts and reactions to this deep dive as well. But as you continue to, navigate the complexities of media and truth, we'll leave you with this. What questions will you ask? The sources you'll seek out, and the biases you'll challenge. The power to discern truth really does lie within each of us.